Good evening. Thanks for joining us on India Business Hour. I'm Shireen Bhan. The headlines we're tracking for you this evening.
Is it like Hanuman? You don't believe in your own capacity, in your own strength, and has there got to be somebody, standing next and say, hey, you are Hanuman, do it.
Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman urges India Inc. to invest more, says the government has cut the corporate tax rate and provided incentives to boost production. Ask the industry, what's stopping you when foreign investors are putting money into India? The sensex and Nifty end at their highest level in 5 months as bulls rally for the fourth day. The Nifty reclaims 18,000 for the first time since early April. Financials lead the charge with the Nifty Bank Index closing at a 10-month high.
At what price you choose to do your IPO is your business. We have no business to suggest otherwise.
SEBI Chief Madhavi Puri Butt says the regulator has no business to suggest pricing of IPOs of new age tech companies, but calls for more disclosures on valuations. Tells India Inc. the market regulator will not scrutinize business decisions but will crack the whip on violations. Inflation in the US continues to remain red hot. Consumer price index for August is at 8.3% higher than estimates. Shares on Wall Street plunge at opening bell. Vedanta and Foxconn sign an agreement to set up a $20 billion semiconductor project in Gujarat. Plan to build a chip and display facility near Ahmedabad. The government classifies 384 drugs as essential, which must be sold at prices set by the Pharma Pricing Authority. These include popular drugs used to treat diabetes, tuberculosis, HIV, among others. 26 drugs deleted from the 2015 list of essential medicines. The COVID vaccines don't make it to the list. Depositories like NSDL, CSDL and CAMS could see 4,000 to 5,000 crore rupees in additional revenues. A CNBC-TV18 analysis of the impact of the insurance regulator's latest mandate to dematerialize insurance policy shows the move could cause some short-term pain, though, for insurance companies. 8 people are dead, dozens suffer burn injuries after a fire broke out at a hotel in Secunderabad. An electric vehicle showroom was housed in the same building. Police are yet to ascertain the cause of the fire. Senior lawyer Mukul Rohatgi set for another stint as India's Attorney General. He will succeed KK Venugopal, whose tenure ends at the end of the month. Well, let's start with the market action on the Lal Street, where the rally continued for day 4. The Sensex and the Nifty hitting their highest level in 5 months. The Nifty is back above the 18,000 mark for the first time since early April. Financials led the rally in the Nifty Bank Index at a 10-month high, so a good day there as far as our markets were concerned. From the stock markets to the money market, the rupee gaining nearly 40 paise against the dollar, hitting its highest level in over a month. And as far as bonds are concerned, the picture is on your screens. Lata is here now with a money market snapshot. Lata.
Yes, the rupee was stronger by 0.5%, almost only 79 rupees to the dollar. At 0.5% higher, it is the best performing currency today in the Asian market. Other currencies are mostly flat, despite the dollar index falling a bit. Now, what is the reason for the rupee's outperformance? It's actually one-off. Dealers say that a large amount of dollars had flowed in some time back into the Indian market, and that was bought by banks. They had hedged that transaction, and now they had to square it off because it was maturing, and so they sold dollars both in the NDF market and in the spot market, and hence this flow of dollars and the fall in the price of the dollars. There are some guesses that maybe it was Holcim's payment that came in, in May, and that was hedged with the banks, and that is the contract that they are now squaring. But all this is hearsay. All we know is this is a one-off transaction. It is a forward transaction, and that was a large amount of money. There are other positive rupee factors like equity flows from FPIs have turned positive. There is an expectation that bond index inclusion will mean more dollar flows. These positives are there, and of course the dollar index is falling. But today's rally is clearly a one-off. We shouldn't expect such huge jumps in the Indian rupee as a matter of routine. The bond markets also did see some bit of positivity, despite the fact that the inflation number for August was higher than expected. This is because the bond market is less worried about inflation. They're only worried about the bond index inclusion In any case, a lot of economists like from SBI and Citi are expecting the Reserve Bank to hike only by 25 or 35 basis points because of the dovish noises or dovish statements we got from some MPC members like Ashima Goyal.
All right, Lata, many thanks. And of course, the markets will now react to the US inflation print and what happens with Wall Street overnight. Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman urging India Inc. to invest without hesitation. Speaking at the Hero Mind Summit in Delhi, the Finance Minister asked India Inc. when foreign companies want to be in India, why are Indian companies reluctant to invest? She asked if the industry is behaving like Hanuman, who was not aware of his own strengths. The Finance Minister has also called on industry leaders to ensure timely payments to MSMEs, saying the responsibility to support small companies lies with the private sector also and not just the government alone.
Since 2019, when I've taken charge of the finance ministry, I've been hearing, though the industry doesn't think it's conducive. All right, bring the rate down. All right, tax rate was brought down. And I keep defending industry, private sector, where even provocatively people have asked, what would you want to tell the private sector? We will do everything to get industry coming and investing here. Give PLI. We've given PLI. I want to hear from the Indian Inc. What's stopping you? When countries and industries abroad think this is the place to be in now, at this time, FDIs are coming, FPIs are coming, it's all, the stock market is so confident, the Indian retail investor believes in them. Is it like Hanuman? You don't believe in your own capacity, in your own strength, and has there got to be somebody, standing next and say, hey, you're Hanuman, do it. Support to the MSMEs is not just what government can give. It is certainly largely dependent on that. Now, I can push my PSCs, I can request states, I can make sure departments pay up, I can only appeal to the industry. For all the tears that we shed for the MSMEs, my tears, your tears, can we limit the time by which the MSME will get its due?
Well, that is the Finance Minister asking India Inc. to invest. What's holding you back is the statement from her. In a rare appearance on television, Prime Minister's Principal Secretary P.K. Mishra spoke about India's inflation problem. He said inflation has to be tackled with a multidimensional approach and not just look at fiscal or monetary policy. Meanwhile, the Chief Economic Advisor says inflation at 7% is still at manageable levels.
We have to look at not only in a one-dimensional way, but it is fiscal policy, monetary policy and other policies also. Plus, there are, the economy is no longer a closed economy. It is the external factor also. So keeping all these and taking a holistic view, we have to structure our policy. Right now, I cannot say what is to be expected, what is to be done. As we go along, we will structure our policy. It is being done also during the whole COVID situation.
I think, food inflation or fuel inflation do not get necessarily addressed by the central bank monetary policy except for second round effects. So therefore, more administrative measures and ensuring adequate stocks and making sure that the availability is ensured for the needy segments of the population, and that would make sure that any increase in local domestic prices in response to international prices, it turns out to be as limited as possible.
And staying with inflation in the U.S., consumer inflation has slowed to 8.3% in August versus 8.5% in July and 9.1% in June. However, the August reading is still higher than estimates of 8.1%, and that has taken the U.S. markets lower.
Expected 75 coming into this meeting, regardless of the inflation print, though, because even if we did get cooler inflation, which we didn't, we still haven't seen that sustained trend of disinflation. So we're going to continue to watch out to see if we do see that. Moreover, we're still seeing that labor markets are tight and wage growth is solid. And above all, if we see that the Fed happens to have gone 50 basis points, we would have been in the same exact position we were this summer, where all of a sudden the markets are pricing in a Fed pivot that the Fed is not ready to deliver. So I think at least it keeps us in line with that 75 basis point hike we're likely to see later this month.
Look at the core measure of CPI. When I look at these alternative measures of core or underlying inflation, trimmed mean, weighted median, underlying inflation gauge, those to me all seem consistent with a pretty sustainable 6% core rate of CPI growth, and that's not 2%.
Well, that's the U.S. inflation print and reactions coming in. The government is likely to announce a calibrated correction to the windfall gains tax imposed on oil and gas companies. Sources say an announcement is likely in the next few days. This is as part of the fortnightly review. The finance minister set up an expert committee to address regulatory issues faced by venture capital and private equity investors. This was a budget announcement, a budget promise. The 6-member expert committee was announced in the budget and will be headed by former SEBI chief M. Damodran. One of the key functions of the panel will be to suggest measures to accelerate investments. The committee is expected to submit a report in the next 3 months. India's Vedanta Group and Taiwanese electronic manufacturer Foxconn have signed an agreement with the Gujarat government to set up a semiconductor manufacturing unit in the state. Both companies have pledged to invest 1.54 lakh crore rupees to set up the facility, which is expected to create 1 lakh job opportunities in the state. In a boost to Make in India, Google is joining the list of foreign smartphone makers to manufacture phones here. Google is considering moving some production of Pixel phones to India following disruptions in China due to the COVID lockdowns and rising tensions with the US. Reports suggest the company has asked for bids from manufacturers in India to make between 5 to 10 lakh Pixel smartphones. This is equivalent to around 10 to 20% of the estimated annual production for the device. SEBI Chief Madhvi Puri Butch has made it clear that the market regulator will not interfere with the IPO pricing of new age companies. However, she's also added that companies need to make more disclosures. She was sharing her views on instances of tech companies seeking high valuations but then collapsing below the issue price. The regulator said that a company is free to ask for a higher price but needs to disclose what happened in the intervening period, which justifies the massive change in valuations. The SEBI chief went on to say that business decisions will not be scrutinized, but the regulator will crack the whip on violations.
A lot has been said about the pricing of the IPOs of the new tech companies. What is SEBI's view on that? Our view is simple, starting from the green. At what price you choose to do your IPO is your business. We have no business to suggest otherwise. The days of CCI are long gone. The Parliament has mandated us that we should have no view on the pricing of issues. You are free to price your issue at whatever price you consider appropriate.
Well, that's the SEBI chief. Tragic news coming in from the state of Telangana. At least 8 people were killed and several injured after a fire broke out in a hotel in Sikandrabad. The building also housed an electric vehicle showroom on the ground floor, but it's still not clear whether the fire started at the showroom. All those killed in the fire died of suffocation caused by the smoke. An FIR has been registered against the owners of the showroom as well as the hotel. The Ministry of Road Transport has sought a report from the Hyderabad local authorities on the possible causes of the fire. The state government has announced a compensation of 3 lakh rupees to the kin of those dead. Prime Minister Modi has also announced an ex gratia of 2 lakh rupees each for the families of the deceased. Senior advocate Mukul Rohatgi is all set to return as the Attorney General from India from October. He will succeed KK Venugopal, who will retire later this month. Rohatgi served as the Attorney General between 2014 to 2017. The 91-year-old KK Venugopal expressed his unwillingness to continue further as Attorney General. A former Twitter executive turned whistleblower is set to testify before a U.S. Senate committee. He has alleged serious security lapses at the social media network. This also comes ahead of a court battle between Musk and the Twitter board over his proposed $44 billion takeover. Musk is attempting to pull out of the commitment. According to reports, a majority of Twitter shareholders have voted in favor of its sale to Musk. Here's renowned author Walter Isaacson, who wrote the biography of Steve Jobs and is currently working on a biography of Elon Musk on what he expected from the showdown with Twitter.
If you're going to have a trial where all the dirty linen and all the clean linen is aired in public, this is bad. So it puts up more pressure for a settlement. I assume that that's a possibility. I know there are a lot of people sort of floating around trying to promote settlements. These are not people who, it's not like the Colgate Palmolive person talking to Walmart and saying, hey, we can settle, because there's a lot more emotion to this one. But yeah, I think there's a possibility that this case won't go to trial.
Won't go to trial. Perhaps a settlement will be brokered. That's Walter Isaacson. We will take a break, but coming up next, the CNBC-TV18 analysis of the impact of the insurance regulator's latest mandate to dematerialize insurance policies. That and more when we return.